Hi, I'm Matt, and welcome to Less Dependent Wisconsin. Well, it's June 20th today, and if you're like me, your garden's in the ground, everything's growing good, but Mother Nature is not going to cooperate. We've got high temperatures and no rain in the forecast for about a week. So that brings us to today's topic, watering. I'm going to talk to you about how I water, how often I water, how I apply the water, what my water sources are, and a few other tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. Now, this is how I do it. Everybody's going to be a little different as far as your temperature, your location, how dry it is, the best times for you to water. But again, this is how I do it. So let's go get started. So we really need to understand the goal of watering. What we're really trying to do, we're not trying to replace Mother Nature. We're just trying to keep our plants alive and growing by providing water efficiently and effectively. So we want to have the most impact using as little water as possible. Now this is one situation that I would consider a little bit of an emergency. My beets really look like they need some water. It's 1:30 in the afternoon, so I'm going to give them some water and we'll see how they bounce back in a few hours. Now I get most of my water from my rain barrels. I've got 4 of them. They're 55 gallons. If we get a half an inch of rain, it pretty much fills all 4 barrels. They're all on different sections of gutter. But it's relatively easy to use. I can hook up a hose right to the nozzle, or I can turn it on and fill my 2-gallon watering can. So if you can afford to get these, they're relatively inexpensive, but it does cut down on your water bill quite a bit. If you don't have rain barrels and you have to get your water from the city, most likely you're going to hook your hose up to an outside faucet and you'll want to water the garden that way. If you can, however, take tap water and let it sit for 24 to 48 hours. A lot of the chlorine will evaporate along with other chemicals. So if you're going to be using tap water, that's a better way to go, but it's not always practical for everybody. The watering can is my favorite way to water. It's relatively cheap. You know how much water you're giving your plants, and you can apply the water exactly where you want it. A soaker hose is my next favorite option for watering, but I really only use this for in-ground plants and if it's been an extreme dry period. Otherwise, I'll do all the watering from a watering can. And then my least favorite way to water, if my rain barrels run dry and I've got to water the entire garden, I'll have to pull out the hose with the nozzle. The hose is bulky, it kinks easily, it's hard to apply water evenly to all the plants. You can damage young plants with the hose and with the force of the water coming out of the nozzle. So that's why I just prefer the watering can. Makes life really easy. So the big questions: when do I water? How often do I water? And how much do I water? For when do I water, generally it's between 4 and 6 p.m. And in my case, I try to wait until the sun starts going down behind these trees. So as you can see, everything's mainly shaded. And if I start in the back of the yard and work my way forward, everything will become more shaded. So when we're checking the soil, we're just gonna dig down a little bit until we start seeing some moisture. So that's about an inch down. Now, peppers do like it hot and dry. So I'm probably gonna go another day before I water these guys. For container vegetables, we're gonna check these and pretty much water these every day. They just don't hold moisture as well as in ground or in a raised bed. So we'll give these a pretty good soaking every day. Now for potatoes that I grow in the buckets, these are pretty much every other day. And one 2-gallon water container is good for about 8 to 10 pots or containers. So that's just my general rule of thumb. Now for raised beds, we're pretty much going to water these every other day. I did water them a little more often when everything was seedlings. Whoops. I've got cucumbers, spring onions, and lettuce growing in here. And the general rule of thumb is one 2-gallon bucket per raised bed. Now the reason I didn't water that spot is as this lettuce develops, I'm going to plant some more seedlings and I can get a rotation of lettuce going on in here. Also, if you do plant lettuce, lettuce really likes water, so make sure you keep the lettuce well watered. As I'm filling my water container, a quick look at the beets. It's about 5 o'clock, so 3.5 hours after I watered them, they bounced right back. But we are still going to give this entire bed a watering. Now for in-ground plants like this corn, it's pretty much on an as-needed basis. When I do water the corn, I am going to just water kind of in between the plants. And again, if you get a little water on the plants, they'll have time to dry out before it gets dark. And a 2-gallon bucket of water gets about 1.5 rows. Another time you're going to want to give your plants a little more water is if they're fruiting, as my strawberries are right now. So the straw does an excellent job of maintaining the water in the ground. Another thing about strawberries and a lot of plants, the way the leaves are shaped, they're actually designed to catch water and bring it down to the roots of the plant. So if you're watering early enough, it really doesn't hurt to get the leaves a little wet. They'll dry out before dark. It is 85 degrees out here right now. New trees are something you don't want to forget either. They're still trying to develop a good root system in the ground you planted them in, so you'll want to give them a good watering. And this apple tree's been here for almost a month now, so we're going to give it a good 2-gallon soaking. Starting to fill it up with wood chips as a mulch. Straw makes an excellent mulch. It's relatively cheap. It cuts back on the weeds, doesn't eliminate them entirely, but it does cut back on the weeds and it helps retain moisture. So as you can see, my pumpkin plants are looking good even in this dry weather. We're just going to kind of show you how straw retains water. We go down 4 or 5 inches or so, that straw is very, very moist. And I have not watered these potatoes in about a week, although we did get about 1/10 of an inch of rain 2 days ago. Cypress mulch also makes an excellent barrier for weeds and helps retain water for plants. These are my perennials, so they come up every year, but I rarely have to water these. Now this is an experiment I've been working on, or rather not working at all on. These are volunteer sunflower plants. I had sunflowers planted back here last year, but I've got 5 of them that are growing. I am not watering, fertilizing, doing anything to these sunflowers at all. And as you can see, the soil is extremely dry. You can go down an inch and it does get a little bit of moisture, but everything making these plants grow is strictly provided by Mother Nature. So this afternoon I wound up using 20 of the 2-gallon water cans to water my garden. The only things that didn't get watered today were my peppers, the potato garden, and then the pumpkins. All of them looked pretty good. My rain barrels are getting empty though, so I'll do a rain dance like the rest of you. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Focus on being less dependent. We'll see you soon. Have a great day.